Yo, what's up everybody? My name is Ryan and I'm a CPA, and today I'm going to be talking about why you should be forming an LLC for your business. The first thing we have to cover is whether or not you even need to. Alright, so if you are forming a business, you likely should form an LLC. However, if you're just dabbling in something and you're trying to see whether or not you want to start a business in this area, then maybe you don't have to do it just yet. So for example, let's say you are sitting at home and you want to go start cutting grass for people because maybe you think you can make a business out of it. Well, maybe you start cutting grass for your neighbors, charging like 20 bucks or whatever it is. You're testing it out. You probably shouldn't have to form an LLC for that because you are just trying it out. You're making sure that you like it. You're only doing it here and there. You know, it's not like a full-on business yet. Same thing with anything else. You know, if you're thinking about painting a house or maybe you're just trying something out for a little bit, it's not worth going through all the formalities to form an LLC if you're just trying it out. Same thing with hobbies. If you do something as a hobby and you sell it occasionally, I don't think you have to form an LLC for that either because you're not exposing yourself to enough risk to justify doing that. Now, if you do have a business and you're still just a sole proprietor, then I would seriously consider forming an LLC or something to get that liability protection. Now, same thing with independent contractors. It really depends here. If you're an independent contractor as a trade, then I would seriously consider forming an LLC or something like that. If you drive for Lyft, Uber, Grubhub, any of those things, then I don't think you really need to form an LLC because those companies should have the proper insurances and protections in place to protect you and to protect the clients or the customer. If you have rental properties, should you put it in an LLC? Probably yes, you should. How you do it depends on the amount of asset protection that you want. You know, some people put one rental property into an LLC and they do that for all of their rental properties. So they have different LLCs for each of their rental properties. Or some people just put like all their rental properties into one LLC. And while that's more simple, that provides less asset protection. So it depends on what you want to do, what your risk tolerance is there. The primary reason here is for liability and asset protection. If you're a sole proprietor and you're running your business and you do something that gets you sued, then the person suing you can sue for your business assets and your personal assets, your home and all that stuff. And that's not something that you really want to happen. And that's why people form an LLC to give that liability protection to separate themselves from their business. If you're a sole proprietor and then now you form an LLC and you operate that LLC correctly, now if somebody sues your business, they can't come after your home or your personal assets. And that's exactly what we want. You don't form an LLC for tax savings. Let me state that clearly, that simply forming an LLC does not save you in taxes in any regard, okay? That requires an extra step, which I will talk about later. And now there's a common misconception about forming an LLC and receiving asset and liability protection. Many people think that if you just spend $50 with the Secretary of State, you get an LLC with your name, Bojangles LLC or whatever, and you just have to do that and you're good. You're fully protected, and that is simply not true. If you get sued when you do that, the courts are going to see that you're not operating your LLC correctly, you don't have the proper documents, you know, you have to prove all these things that your LLC is actually operating as an LLC. But if it's not, then they can still do what's called piercing the corporate veil and go after your personal assets. So it's a misconception that I want to just blow away right now, that just because you formed an LLC doesn't mean that you're fully protected. There's many things that you have to consider in order to do that. And you have to operate your LLC as a separate business. You have to have an operating agreement, which is something that an attorney will draft for you. An operating agreement is just a document that states how your LLC will be operated, what kind of business it's in, who the owners are, how money is contributed, all kinds of things that kind of define the way that your LLC will be ran. Another reason people form LLCs is for flexibility. You know, there's other entities out there. There's corporations, S corporations, partnerships. So why are we talking about an LLC? Besides protection, it's flexibility. Now, corporations have certain formalities that you have to follow. You know, you have to have shareholder meetings at least once a year. You have to have board of director meetings at least once a year. You have to have meeting minutes, and you have to keep record of that. And so what does that even look like if you're just a single owner? What does a shareholder meeting look like? See, those are things that you have to be doing. With an LLC, it's not explicitly required to do that. In LLC, you more or less define how you operate your company, you define your formalities, whereas corporations have formalities written for them that you have to follow. Another flexibility for LLCs is taking distributions. If you have multiple owners of the LLC, let's say there's 2 owners and it's 50-50. But let's say one owner does most of the work and the other owner just contributed the money. Now the owner that does most of the work, maybe that person deserves to take more of the profit distributions than the one that just contributed the money. So even though it's 50-50 ownership, the working owner can take like an 80% distribution and the investing owner can just take a 20% distribution. If you were a corporation and it was 50-50, then the distributions have to be 50-50. There's no getting around that. And the last point of flexibility is the way that you can choose to be taxed. So by default, an LLC is taxed the same way as a sole proprietor is taxed. Or if there are 2 or more owners, it's taxed in the same way that a partnership is taxed. However, you can elect to have your LLC taxed as a corporation. It could be a C corporation or an S corporation. And so you get the benefits legally of having an LLC, and you can have the benefits tax-wise of having the S corporation tax election. Now, as I mentioned before, just forming an LLC has no tax effect. There's no changes there. If you were a sole proprietor before and you formed an LLC, you're going to be paying the same amount of taxes. In order to save on taxes, you have to be electing an S corporation taxation. And you can do that with one form, Form 2553. However, it's not so simple as it looks. There are many ways you can screw it up. That's why I usually recommend you contact your CPA to do that for you. Now, the S election basically tells the IRS that yes, we are an LLC, but we want to be taxed and we want to file taxes as an S corporation. And when you do that, you will find that S corporations pay a lot less taxes than sole proprietors, LLCs, partnerships. And that's because profits from an S corporation aren't subject to self-employment tax. And self-employment tax is 15.3% of your earnings, which is quite significant. Now, there's a lot of other things to consider before you choose to elect an S corp that you really have to consider. It's not just like, oh yeah, let's save taxes, let's form an S corp, and that's the only data point that we are using. No, there's a lot of things to consider. So before you do that, talk to a tax professional, contact me, reach out to me. I'd be happy to consult with you on that. So after knowing all this information, what should you do now? First, you gotta make sure it's right for you and your business, okay? Talk to a professional, talk to an attorney or CPA, make sure it's right for your business. If you already have an LLC and you're interested in the S election, then reach out to me. I have my website in the description below. Go there, you can schedule an appointment with me. We'll give you a free consultation on this and we'll make sure it's the right fit for you. Thanks for watching this video. If you got any value out of this video, please smash that like button. And if you're new to this channel, please hit that subscribe button and leave me a comment below. Let me know if you have any questions, concerns, anything like that in the comments. I'd be happy to try to answer them for you. All right? Take care for now, and I'll see you next time.